Look closely at this screen. The cursor snaps between tabs, scrolls through data, and clicks Submit with deliberate timing. No human is touching the mouse. While a standard macro follows a rigid, pre-programmed script, this AI observes the live arrangement of pixels on the screen to decide its next move. It has learned to navigate the Graphical User Interface, or GUI. A GUI is the visual environment of icons, menus, and windows designed specifically for human eyes and hands to interact with computers. AI no longer needs special back-end code to operate our software. If it can see the screen, it can take action. This animated map shows how modern enterprise software communicates. For 20 years, automation relied on a strict rule. Systems could only talk to each other through an API. An application programming interface is a set of defined rules that allows different software programs to directly exchange data behind the scenes. But at the edges of the network, we hit the massive, isolated blocks. These represent old-generation ERPs and monolithic MES platforms. ERPs and MES are large, complex software platforms that manage a company's finances and factory floor operations, and they often lack modern APIs. These older systems survived because human workers acted as the manual bridge. People stared at one screen, copied the data, and typed it into another. Relying strictly on API integration trapped global enterprises in decades of expensive technical debt. Millions of dollars of workflows were locked in unwired, isolated databases. That logic expired in October 2024. Anthropic released an update giving their Claude model direct computer use capabilities. 3 months later, OpenAI followed suit, launching a computer operating agent named Operator. Then, the timeline compressed. In a single week in February 2026, Microsoft introduced their own vision for screen reading agents. Google launched their competitor in that exact same week. Major industry players reached a synchronized consensus. They all built their products on the exact same thesis. An AI should not have to ask for a custom integration. It just needs to look at the screen, find the button, and click. The visual interface we use every day is now the universal API. This bypasses traditional limitations in computer science architecture, turning the screen itself into a functional entry point for data. This chart compares human versus AI task times. A recruiting firm saw a 95% drop in candidate matching. E-commerce reports an 80% reduction in inventory processing. Scaling up, Palo Alto Networks put 3,500 developers on Claude Code, tracking a 30% increase in coding velocity. In other production environments, Claude Sonnet 4.5 successfully maintained focus on complex, multi-step workflows for over 30 hours without a single human intervention. These metrics suggest a transition in software utility. AI is moving from a conversational tool to an autonomous digital colleague capable of 30-hour shifts. But this dial indicator reveals the technology's instability. On complex desktop navigation, agent accuracy fluctuates between 56% and 87%. The underlying engineering faces critical threats. Models suffer from hallucinations, inventing false information, and prompt injection, where malicious instructions in regular text hijack the AI's behavior. Because of these vulnerabilities, enterprise adoption is intentionally dragging. Business leaders have legitimate concerns regarding data privacy, security boundaries, and brand reputation. Even with heavy investment, a measurable gap persists between isolated laboratory demonstrations and reliable production at scale. Despite risks, momentum accelerates. This graph maps Gartner's forecast, an 8-fold spike by 2026, where 40% of enterprise applications integrate AI agents. By 2030, 35% of today's software products will be absorbed into larger agent ecosystems. Generative AI provided knowledge workers with a drafting tool. Agentic AI provides the organization with a tireless operator that navigates every screen and workflow. Because these operators can look at a screen just like a human does, those unwired, isolated legacy systems from 30 years ago are finally accessible. The massive technical debt that held companies back is suddenly negotiable. Every major organization will eventually deploy agents. The only decision left for leaders is whether they will dictate the terms of that deployment today or be forced to inherit whatever the market dictates tomorrow.